All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the very architecture of our financial world. We're going to investigate a system that impacts every single dollar you earn, save, or borrow. And the crazy part? This system isn't new, it's ancient, with roots stretching back 2,000 years.
Let's start with a number, a really, really big one. Over $100 trillion. That's the amount of global debt. Now, this isn't some abstract figure you see on the news. No. This is your mortgage. This is your retirement account. This is your government's budget. It's all running on an operating system that's been in place for millennia.
And that brings us to this incredible quote. Think about that for a second. The core idea we're digging into is that our modern financial system isn't some recent invention. It's actually an ancient set of rules that has just been upgraded with new technology. So we're not just looking at history, we're dusting for fingerprints at the scene of a crime that's happening right now. So how are we going to crack this case? Well, here's our plan. First, we'll examine the crime scene itself. Then, we'll uncover the ancient operating system that's still running the show. We'll look at some historical case studies for evidence, connect it to today's global system, see how it all affects you personally. And then finally, we'll reveal the playbook for how to navigate it all. Okay, let's get into it. You know that feeling you get sometimes that the financial system is kinda rigged? That you're working harder and harder but not really getting ahead? Well, you're not imagining things. You're feeling the effects of a system with a very long and very specific history. And this really boils down to one massive question, doesn't it? We see these constant cycles of booms, busts, bailouts, and we think, man, this system is so broken. But what if it's not? What if it's actually working exactly as it was designed to? Just maybe not for your benefit. That's what we're here to figure out. Okay, section 2. Here's the big idea. Every great empire, from ancient Rome to the global powers of today, has run on the exact same core financial software. Yeah, the technology changes. We've gone from silver coins to digital ones and zeros, but the fundamental rules, the code itself, it has not changed one bit. And these 5 rules are so simple it's almost scary. First, you control how money is made. Second, you tax everything productive to fund the state. Third, you use debt to keep people and countries on a leash. It creates predictable, long-term control. Fourth, and this is crucial, when things go south, you always protect the lenders, the creditors. And finally, you back the whole thing up with laws and, if needed, force. That's the playbook. It's timeless. Now, a claim this big needs some serious evidence, right? So let's jump in our time machine and see exactly how this operating system was installed and run in some of history's most powerful empires. First stop, ancient Rome. So the Roman state controlled the mints, and when they needed more money for, wars and legions, they didn't just raise taxes. They did something much sneakier. They debased the currency. It's like watering down a drink. They took their main silver coin, the denarius, and started mixing in cheaper metals like copper. This let them mint more coins to pay the soldiers, but it created massive inflation that absolutely destroyed the savings of regular people. The state won, but the citizens paid the price. Okay, now let's jump over to China, because they perfected a totally different flavor of control. First, they invented paper money, which gave the central government unbelievable power. Then, they created state monopolies on stuff everybody needed, like salt and iron. You literally couldn't opt out. The government controlled the money you had to use and the essential goods you had to buy. It created total dependency, and that's how you keep a ruling class in power for a very, very long time. And this is wild. The Spanish Empire. In the 1500s, they controlled 80% of the world's silver. They should have been the richest empire in history, right? Instead, they went bankrupt 4 times in just 70 years. How is that even possible? Well, it's because while the Spanish crown had the silver, European bankers had the credit. Spain was constantly borrowing against silver they hadn't even mined yet to pay for their wars. And here's the kicker. Does this sound at all familiar? It should, because the exact same trap exists today. You have modern nations swimming in oil or other resources, but they're completely trapped by debt to global financial institutions. It's just another feature of the empire's operating system. No matter what, the creditor always gets protected. So that brings us to the modern era. See, this old code, it didn't just vanish. Nope, it got a massive upgrade, scaled globally, first by the British Empire, and then, after World War II, by the United States. And that created the system we are all living in right now. And the absolute masterstroke of the modern system, the real key to the whole thing, was establishing the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. What does that mean? It means every country on Earth needs dollars to trade for essential things like oil. This gives the United States this unbelievable power to just print money to pay its own debts, which basically exports its inflation to the rest of the world. Your cost of living goes up, but their debt gets cheaper. And if you want to see what that power looks like in practice, just look at this chart. It's insane. This shows the explosive growth of money being created out of thin air by central banks, especially after a crisis hits. And let's be crystal clear, this money isn't being printed to help you. Its main job is to protect the system itself, to keep credit flowing and make sure the governments can keep borrowing. It protects the creditors, not your purchasing power. So we've talked about empires and global systems, which is all fascinating. But what does this 2,000-year-old system actually mean for you? For your wallet? Let's bring it all home and connect these giant strategies directly to your personal finances.
Let's break it down. Your mortgage, for example. Ever wonder why houses are so expensive? Well, when central banks make credit super cheap by lowering interest rates, it directly inflates the price of assets, especially houses. Or think about your retirement account. It's mostly stocks and bonds, right? Well, the prices of those assets are also pushed up by all that cheap credit. You need them to keep going up just to stay ahead of the inflation that's eating away at your savings. And this is why it feels like wages never keep up. The system is designed to reward the owners of capital, not labor.
I know, this can all sound a little bleak, but look, the point here isn't to get you down. It's to wake you up. Because once you understand the rules of the game, you can learn how to play it a whole lot better. So let's look at the playbook. So what can you actually do? It starts right here. First, just accept that the game is not neutral, it's tilted. Second, you have to own things that actually generate income, productive assets, like a business or real estate. Third, you gotta realize that in a world designed for inflation, safe things, like cash or government bonds, are a guaranteed way to lose your purchasing power. And finally, and this is the most important part, you have to learn to think like a creditor, because that's the group the whole system is designed to protect. So we've come full circle. And the big takeaway is this. The financial system isn't chaotic or broken. Not at all. It's an ancient, highly effective engine for control, and it's working perfectly. The only question left, the one you have to ask yourself, is, now that you know how the game is played, are you positioned correctly?